On behalf of all assembled here today, I should now like to invite our newest alumnus, Dr. Cecil Rarabeck, to address the convocation.
Chancellor, President Chakma, members of the board, faculty, and all of the graduating class of 209, I guess including myself in this, your family and friends. Firstly, Chancellor, let me thank you and the University of Western for this extraordinary honor that which you bestowed upon me. I'm sincerely humbled and appreciative. I'd also like to thank Carol Herbert. Dean Herbert has been a great supporter of mine over the years. The citation that you read today was, I thought, flawless, but I do have my family here. I do have my family here in the audience, and I'm sure they'd be very happy to editorialize some of the aspects of it. But nonetheless, Carol, it was from the heart, and I very sincerely appreciate what you've done. Well, one is expected to impart words of wisdom to the convocants, and thus today I'm going to address two issues which may be of some interest to you. They're pretty straightforward things. Your parents might like it. The first has a certain immediacy to them, and that's the concept of celebrating. The second has perhaps a more long-term thing, and that's how you're going to deal with change. So the first, of course, is a celebration which is occurring today. Everybody's jacked up. We're here. We're having a heck of a time here. And I'm sure there's not a young person in this audience who doesn't know how to celebrate. But I feel sure that, that given your hard work and the necessity, the work which you've had to do to get to this day, in fact, will leave lasting memories for you. You know, I think many of you probably started school at age 3, maybe. You've probably been going to school for 25, 30 years, who knows. Same old thing. But now you've graduated from Western, and what a treat that is. Your parents somewhere along the way probably said, you know something, Billy, you should go to university. And Billy said, oh, well, what university should I go to? So go to Western. And I can tell you from standing up here looking around that I'm happy to report that everyone in the audience has got a degree from Western here today. So clearly they all made a good choice. So as the celebration begins, it's time to say thanks to your parents and your extended family. So in addition to being mentors and role models, your parents have undoubtedly helped and encouraged you and listened to you and were kind of emotionally there when you needed them. You know, whether you're the first to graduate with a university degree, or whether you come from some long line of scholars, doesn't really matter, but you've got to say thank you. You must say thank you because there's a whole village of people out there that have been behind you and have helped you get here at this moment. Now, speaking of a village, I have my own village here today. You might call it almost a city, but including my family who are here and a lot of friends who are here, that quite honestly, without their love and support, I would not be here. In particular, my wife Linda is here, and without without her, clearly this wouldn't happen. I mean, there's no I in T. Really and truly, we've been kind of a combination over the years, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard that song. I don't know why I was humming it this morning, that Patsy Cline song, Stand By Your Man. Linda epitomizes this in spades, and Linda, I love you and thank you very much for everything you've done for me. There's another person here, Katie McGraw, who, when I was a little boy, I was an only child. My children would say you were a lonely child, but I was definitely an only child. And Katie came and kind of looked after me when my mother was ill. And there's two things that stand out about Katie. Every day I came home from school, I'd walk into the house, and I could smell fresh baked cookies. And I was in heaven. But there was only one problem. It was a true risk-reward situation. Cecil, you have to do your homework first. So that's how I learned to do homework. And then I got to eat the cookies after. And Katie, thank you for what you've done for me. And you know, we have, Linda and I managed to have 3 children. They're here today. Lee, Tim, and Beth, their wives and husband and so on are all here. It's amazing watching kids grow up because when they're younger, you kind of wonder, gee. And I'm sure your parents, many of your parents are probably saying, gee, isn't it great to finally have them here? But these kids are terrific. You know, they're well launched, they're beautiful kids, and they're a great tribute to themselves, and not just to, and to their mother, and of course to me. So thank you for coming, and thanks for being here. So looking back on my own children's graduation, I recall telling them that life ahead is like a big buffet. You know, you've gone through the salad bar. You've probably had some smoked salmon down there. You may even have had the odd shrimp or two. But if you look farther down that salad bar, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see big roast beefs and turkeys and hams and all kinds of other things down there. And if you've got really good vision, you're probably going to see the dessert tray. And my point is simply this. There are lots of options ahead of you. And it's, I think, difficult to make a bad decision here. So analyze the options. Think about it as a buffet. You've successfully achieved the salad bar, and away we go from here. So the other thing I was thinking about when I was writing this speech, and I'm not normally used to writing speeches. Many of us just kind of talk, which is not so good either. But two words come to mind. You know, if I'm sitting where you are, I'm going to say, well, now what? I've got, you know, a degree in whatever I got a degree in, but now what? What does your university education really mean? Well, in my opinion, it means that you've learned how to learn. But is that enough? You've learned many life skills. I've learned civility, you've learned leadership, you've learned respect for others, and an ability to adapt to change. And I think this is something that's going to be hanging over you as you go through life, and you simply have to be driving that and be part of it. For example, in my generation, we had serious issues with change. First of all, we had the cell phone came out. You know, by the time we figured out how to punch the buttons, we were just nicely getting through that. Fax machines arrived. Oh, geez, fax machines. So we eventually mastered fax machines, and we patted ourselves on the back when email came along because we actually learned how to use email. And then the kids all started texting because, as my daughter said to me, well, Dad, email is so last year. So, and she was right. And now we're on Facebook and Twittering and, you know, who knows what else. There's probably something else has happened this morning. But the important thing about it all is that you are the people that are going to be driving this. You're the people that are going to have to figure out what its place is in society. And it's your generation that's going to be stuck with all these very interesting changes. There will be bumps along the road with life, and I'll just go through a couple of things here in my last hour and a half, Mr. Chancellor. No. When finishing high school, I went to high school, I finished in 1962, okay, so I want to be a doctor. So I applied to the University of Toronto. I only applied to one university. I don't know how many of you kids would apply to just one university today. I just applied to one. So I sent it into U of T, said I want to be a doctor. So in August of 1962, I get a thing back saying, sorry, we don't have any room for you as a doctor. I go, oh, that's not so good. But there's good news. You can be a forestry engineer. And I'm thinking, forestry? Okay. You know, I like canoeing and all that kind of stuff. So my father said to me, Cecil, just think about this with forestry engineering. He said, you know, in all probability, if you're a forestry engineer, you're going to have to live in the bush. And it was one of those sort of eureka moments with the ice cream on the forehead thinking, you know, I don't think I really want to do that. So I do want to be a doctor, and my dad and mom both encouraged me to come to Western. So I did. I came down here, and 2 weeks before school, got into pre-med class here, and that's the second best thing that happened to me. The second best thing that happened to me was coming to Western. The first was Linda was a nurse at Victoria Hospital, and a damn good nurse, I might add. And we got married. So, you know, all in all, it's a huge deal for us. Well then, in spite of some questionable academic prowess, I got a 9 in organic chemistry one year. And, you know, in those days, the university used to send the marks to the parents, right? I don't think they do it now. Mr. President, I don't know. Maybe you do. So these marks went home to my father and my mother, And I, of course, came home on Thanksgiving weekend or whatever it is. Wow, you know, they were really in high alert mode when they saw me. And my dad was trying to, I was trying to explain to my dad, who was an educated man himself, how a 9 wasn't all that bad. The bell curve was just set a little low. But anyway, you know, we did our SUPs and did all those things, and I eventually passed. And I saw fit to graduate in 1968, or the university saw fit to graduate me as a physician. So then I went on and decided I want to be a surgeon, right? Because doctors want to be surgeons. I became an orthopedic surgeon, spent 6 or 7 years in Toronto. And at the end of that time, Linda and I are living in this apartment that's about the, you know, the size of this tray. And we had 2 children. I was an absolute financial train wreck. Like, we had nothing. So our theory was, well, let's get a job, okay? So where would you like to live, dear? Let's live in the mountains. We like to hike, some beautiful lakes. We like to ski. And so, of course, we chose London with Lake Fanshawe, Bowler Mountain, London Ski Club, and some of the best cross-country skiing in Ontario. So that was a heck of a deal for us, and we've lived here ever since. Well, in 1970, artificial knee joints were in their infancy in Canada, the United States. The University Hospital just opened, and supported by the hospital and the University of Western Ontario, we developed, in conjunction with Bob Bourne, who was my partner, an arthritis unit at the University Hospital, which, quite frankly, became quite well known around the world. And I'm not entirely sure why, but it did. Bob and I had only one problem. Even though we're putting in hundreds of these darn things, we were not happy with the ultimate function that these patients were getting. And so both of us were young and naive, and both of us had some interest in engineering as well. So we thought, well, let's just design a new knee. So we did. In our lab at Western, we designed this new thing. We thought this was going to be the savior of artificial joint surgery. We took it around to every company in Canada and the United States to try to get them to market it. And they all were polite, but they all said, I don't think so. So Bob and I said, oh, the hell with it. We're going to go to Europe, and we're going to find a company over there. So off we went and found a company in Switzerland to make our knee, which subsequently became imported back into North America. And we also found a company in Liechtenstein. I couldn't even find Liechtenstein on a map in those days, to make precision instruments for us. And that's really how things got going. But the relationship with Western, and in particular, George Connell, he helped us tremendously well. He put the staff at Western behind in terms of the legal people and intellectual property, and we went as a team. And that has worked very well for both institutions for many years. Now, I want to tell you one other war story about Western. Have I got a couple more minutes? Nobody's nodding, so I better be fast. Oh, dear. In 1906, I was winding down my career as an orthopedic surgeon, and I was asked, as Carol said, to become the interim CEO and the scientific director of the Robarts Research Institute. And I want to tell these people in the room, the students who probably know, but their parents won't know, that the Robarts Research Institute, which was dedicated to biomedical research, it was on the campus of the University of Western Ontario, right near the University Hospital, and it was Canada's last private research institute. It was a one-of-a-kind operation, focusing on biomedical discoveries that had resulted in many spin-off companies that's resulted in employing people in science, not only in London, but in Southern Ontario and in the United States. It was one of a kind in terms of its biomedical discoveries. It only had one problem, and that was money. Didn't have any money. It was out of money. So here I was, a relatively competent orthopedic surgeon, comfortable in an operating room, hired by the Robarts to sit in a corner office and figure out how to solve the problem. But the key to this whole thing, there were 2 important points. The first was that we had scientists there that were superb, that were committed to the Institute and stayed there. And that's one reason it's become successful. And the second is that the University of Western Ontario and Paul Davenport and Carol Herbert, I got to tell you, Fred Longstaff, I don't know if Fred's here. These people did so much for me and so much for the Robarts in bringing this into the Western family, making both organizations better. And Western Western now ranks amongst the top science universities in Canada, something which I'm extremely proud of, and I think we all should be proud of that. Well, somebody said something about volunteering, and I do think you should give something back to society. I don't want to sound preachy, okay? And I don't mean it that way, but you know, you get all kinds of things in the mail, do this, do that, help this, help that. But hook up with a cause that you like that kind of turns your crank somehow, and stick with it. You'll find it very rewarding. And I got involved with some other colleagues of mine doing volunteer hip surgery around the world. And, you know, it's pretty interesting stuff. I mean, I don't know who gets more out of it, us or the patients. Anyway, we do it. And our latest episode, or our latest thing now, is in Guatemala. Well, in closing, whatever success you will enjoy in life will undoubtedly occur as a result of your hard work, good luck, and probably with some help from other people. You know, I love watching Tiger Woods. That guy, the world's greatest golfer, he didn't learn how to become a golfer by hitting balls every Sunday afternoon, right, once a week. He didn't learn how to become that kind of golfer. Similarly, none of us can achieve our potential by sitting on our hands or sitting in an office waiting for something to happen. Because that isn't the way life works. You all have proven by being here today that you've learned how to learn, that you know how to work, and that you know how to be successful. Congratulations, bon voyage, and many thanks to the University of Western Ontario.